Hi, I'm Zibby Owens, the creator and host of the award-winning podcast that you're listening to right now. Thank you so much, called Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. It is a daily podcast, 365 days a year, and each day we talk to an author about all of the things related to their career, their book, their life, and more in 30 minutes or less, because who has time? I am now an author myself, although I wasn't when I started this podcast, and you can get my new memoir, Bookends, a memoir of love, loss, and literature, wherever books are sold starting July 1st, and my children's book, Princess Charming. You can learn more about me at zibbyowens.com, but really you're here to learn more about the authors, and that is what we're going to do. Also, be sure to check out all the other podcasts in the Zcast Podcast Network. You can learn more at zcastnetwork.com and definitely check out those shows as well. Lisa Taddeo is the author of Ghost Lover Stories. She's also the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, 3 Women, which she is adapting as a dramatic series at Showtime, and the novel Animal. She has contributed to the New York Times, New York, Esquire, Elle, Glamour, and many other publications. Her nonfiction has been included in the Best American Sports Writing and Best American Political Writing anthologies, and her short stories have won 2 Pushcart Prizes. She lives with her husband and daughter in New England. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you for coming back on Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books to discuss Ghost Lover.
Thank you for having me. It's one of my favorite podcasts in the whole world. Quite true.
So sweet. Oh my gosh. Well, then you may remember from our first podcast, but after I read 3 Women, I ravenously devoured everything you'd ever written online. I stayed up and was like, what else has she written? I can't get enough of this author's voice. And then of course we met and, all in the past, but there is something about your writing that is so amazing and different and just stops me in my tracks the way you write. So I am a huge fan of yours, as you know, not to be, too sycophantic here, but I am.
Thank you.
Okay, Ghost Lover. First, tell everybody what it's about, and then I'm going to read a couple of amazing quotes.
So Ghost Lover, I dedicated it to all the girls who've loved before. And the reason I wrote that in the dedication, my mom used to love Enrique Iglesias. And I'm not Enrique, sorry, Julio Iglesias, wrong generation. The elder Iglesias. And I one of the songs obviously is to all the girls I've loved before. And for me, it's we have such a man's, I grew up with such a man's kind of view of women, including my mother sort of inculcating that in me. So what I wanted to do with Ghost Lover was write it for the women who've loved before, rather than to all the girls I've loved before, kind of a thing. So Ghost Lover is a compendium of stories about women, young women, older women, women across the sort of, the spectrum of wealth, socioeconomics and everything, and just kind of how we are told who we need to be. It's a satirical look of the way that we are self-punish ourselves after being told how to punish ourselves, and then basically remonstrated for doing that punishing after having been told to do it. So it's a bit of a satirical look at how female desire works in the world, and the way that it's frankly affected by everybody else, and then the way that we still decide to judge it after all of that.
Do you love describing it? Are you tired of? Are you just I don't want to do this description ever again? Why are you asking me?
No. In fact, it's funny. I got really tired after describing 3 women because I would hear myself say the same words over and over again. And I would be like, oh God. And I didn't get tired of it. What it's more is that I feel like if someone's listening to the same thing, to me saying it 3 times, I remember when Lady Gaga was promoting A Star Is Born, she was like, there's 99 people in a room who don't believe you. All you need is that one person to believe in you. And I remember listening to her saying it over and over. And I was like, my God, lady, say something else. And then 3 Women came out and I was like, so if there's 99 people, not that, but my version of it. And I had a renewed sense of, so no, I'm not tired of it. I'm excited about Ghost Lover. I'm really excited about, I love short stories. It's my favorite form. It's just, I think that I think that they're an unsung hero of the writing world, or heroine rather, and that we need to start reading them again.
I think there's this misperception, though, with short story or short story collections that they have to be so deeply literary that you're going to need to like settle in and put your best thinking cap on to devour intricate sentences. And you're going to need to really like exert a lot of effort to consume them, which is like a detraction, I think, from people. But like, your stories are the exact opposite of that. Not that you don't think, but like they're not, there is no lift. There is no lift on the part of the reader. The reader is immediately like pulled in, and it's very like okay, you know what? I'm going to just read a few examples of what I'm talking about. Not to say you're not literary, you obviously are, but it's not in a way that requires effort. It's a way that is like entertaining for the reader. I hope that, do you know what I'm trying to say?
I totally do. And in fact, it's something that I work on, because I obviously, literary fiction sentences that are crafted, that whole, like I always bring up like Grace Paley's story Wants. I think it's Wants and not Wanting, Wants. And how there's like sentences in there that are just kind of tell you the whole scope of a human life, but yet are also effortlessly readable. So for me, being literary and all of that, it's like my first desire is to entertain, because that's what I want to be. As a reader, I want to be entertained. So as a writer, I want to entertain. I want to do it as sort of like as concisely and sharply as possible within the boundaries of a sentence. But ultimately, the desire is to entertain and to have someone go, oh, I know exactly what you mean. And I think there's sometimes when, you write something and some people are like, what the hell does that mean? And I think for like each, what the hell does that mean? There's oh my God, I know exactly what she means. So, I think there's a risk that you take in that, but it's a risk that I'm happy to take, because when it is fruitful and when it lands, it's really exciting.
It's awesome
for me as a writer.
No, it's exciting to read because, you're like, oh, I've never looked at, I've never thought about having sex with an iron, but I guess that's what it would feel like.
Well, that might come from the fact that when I was researching Three Women, I watched an actual machine, like a robotic machine. Sorry if this is not good for your book chat. Penetrate a woman in the air while she was hogtied at the porn castle in San Francisco, now defunct. So I saw that actually happen, and so that's where that one comes from in my head.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I'm not sure I wanted to know that. Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. So I think what it is a lot are the comparisons, like all the analogies and similes and whatever, or the way. Okay, so here's an example. This is from the first story. And you would have sat looking at the waves thawing on your rocky bandage of beach in abject misery, waiting no less than 3 minutes, blah, 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 in the refrigerated section. This is so out of context. Now I'm like not making any sense, but I guess rocky bandage of beach. And you say, and then in the next scene, you say, this is when they're in line and they're recognizing the ghost lover, Ari, who's like become famous. And there's this couple in line who are like all over each other. And you go, hey, he says, hey, you're Ari, the ghost lover, right? And then you write, you feel dizzy, a crouton in your mouth the size of a nightmare. You try to chew it quietly, but there is no quiet, fast way to get rid of a crouton. There is only slow disintegration. So good. A crouton. I mean, croutons. Like, think about croutons. Then you say, the way you describe Sunday is amazing. It's Sunday, which for you is a whale's throat, blue, black, and forever. I mean, is a whale's throat blue, black? Have you looked inside a whale's throat? How do we even know this?
I think that for me, like finding something that's kind of out of reach and I guess this is a way, and I think it might be in Suburban Weekend, which is in there. One of the ways in which, not to bring it into grief, but there is a lot of grief in Ghost Lover too, the collection, as there was in Animal, but with loss and stuff like that. For me, it was so hard after having lost my parents to figure out how to describe depression and how to describe loss. There were no words, there were no phrases that could adequately sort of communicate to people who hadn't experienced those feelings, what it was like. So for me, things like a whale's throat, it's like in Suburban Weekend, I say that having lost her parents for the woman there was like a tiger bite that nobody could see. Cause I feel like that's it. There's just, for me, and I've just always struggled to communicate adequately how big an emotion can feel. And I think we have this amazing language, and English is really an amazing language. It is absolutely impossible to learn for people for whom they're not impossible. It's just really difficult for people for whom it's not their first language. But with that difficulty, I think comes so many things we can draw from, so many different ways of seeing the world that I just kind of like fall into it and try to find things that communicate something that I feel is incommunicable with sort of regular thoughts and feelings.
I struggle with the same thing, not to be self-promotional here, but in Bookends, when I was trying to describe my depression, I compared it to like the heavy x-ray cloak that you wear, how it just fits on
totally.
You. And it's just like, anyway.
And those kinds of things that, communicating that, I think, like that's beautiful. And I think that's so important to find ways to communicate things that like someone who does not know now reading it's like, you wouldn't just sort of sit there talking to a friend and be like, it feels like an extra. I mean, you might, but there's something about the experience of putting it in a book, that, or an essay or anything where it's like, you have the time to write it out. And then someone else has the time on their own time, like on a couch or at a pool or wherever they read, and to see that and be like, oh, and then to take that fully in is really a gift.
Speaking of gift, I'm going to read a few more of your lines here. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Well, this was just funny. The less one's body is perfect, the more it needs expensive garments, heavy crepes to position themselves like aid workers across the fault lines. Oh my gosh. I mean, insane, amazing. Oh, and then you're so funny when you have the sales lady at Morgan Le Fay come up and she asks if you want anything special. You say, no, in fact, I'm looking for something really unspecial. Tell me, what is the least special thing you have in the store? And then you feel so bad you'd like tell your friend about it. Not you, but this is how good you are at your job. You are a clinician of the text. You can eviscerate, palpate, abrogate with a mild word combined with cunning punctuation. That should be like on your website as like the description of you and what you do with language. And you say, you wear the red dress that Nick bought you at that consignment shop in Cambridge. All these years later, all these diets later, you are still mostly the same size. If only people knew how much work went into your weight. The fluctuations in your mind rocket and plunge like an ambitious water slide. Your relationship with your refrigerator has given the cat an anxiety disorder. But on your body, the movements are razor bumps. That is so perfect. This is like an example to me. This is just like, I've never heard weight loss and the effort it takes to maintain a weight with which you are dissatisfied described so perfectly. And it's something I think about often.
Well, it's like, and here's the thing for me is that like, we think about it often, right? But like, we're kind of not allowed to talk about it and how much we think about it. So that's what that is for me. It's like, it's kind of like a carnival of like, here is all the stuff we have to do, and this is what we think about. And it's okay to think about it. It's okay to have these feelings. It's just okay. It's okay.
My mother was once talking to me about a friend of hers who's always been sort of overweight, but mostly the same. And she goes, I said to my friend the other day, like, what is your secret? Because you maintain your weight so well.
That's awesome. I love that. That's great.
So, so I get it. I mean, it does take a lot. I mean, it could always be worse or whatever. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so when you write a story like this, and I feel like they're all linked. I mean, they don't seem independent. Like everything made sense. Like how do you do it all in one fell swoop? Like, did you sit down and just write the story, or do you go back over and over? Like, does the first draft of a story just come out of you and then you go back and edit?
Yeah, yes. I don't do a lot of going. I do go back and edit, but what I do more is I kind of don't move on until I'm happy with a paragraph. Like until I think a paragraph is like great or, good or whatever, I won't have the sort of temerity to keep it moving. So I'm more like sentence, 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 sentence. And then like I look at that and I'm like, how do I feel about those 4 sentences? And then I move on.
Going back just for 2 seconds to losing your parents and trying to communicate that. Once you feel like you can explain it, if it can ever actually be explained, what do you think, like, what is our compulsion to get people to get it who don't get it? What is that?
It's so funny you should ask that. I try to tell my husband all the time. My husband has never lost anyone super close to him. So his experience of death is utterly different than mine because I have lost a lot of people super close to me. And I'm terrified of it. And I walk through the world in terror. And he walks through the world in less terror. And I'm jealous of his less terror. So I try, he's very empathetic about listening about my parents and stuff like that. But in terms of that actual loss, it's like, and he said to me, he's like, why do you want me to know what it feels like so that I'm walking around as afraid as you? And I'm like, yes, I think I do. I don't want him to walk around. I guess I want him to walk around afraid in the sense that like, I want to make sure he knows that at any moment something can happen and we have to be vigilant. So I think for me, it's about vigilance. It's about like, if everybody knows how bad this is, we can all work together to stop death from ever touching us. And I know that's obviously not possible. It's not biologically possible. It's not statistically possible. It's not anything, but that's kind of, I feel like if I can just communicate to everybody how bad it is, that everybody will band together with me and we can all like sit in a white room that's like, all padded and we can just like sit there and like, get really healthy and drink lemon water. I don't know, Zibby. I'm just trying to like get by.
It's not just you. I mean, I didn't mean like,
No, I know what you meant. I'm just saying that's how
you're right. It's, it's so I am not like terrified of death because I am just like in full recognition that it could happen any second. And so it changes the way I live every day. And I feel like people who don't believe that might not have that clarity of purpose almost, or like I think it can go either way if you've had a lot of loss, right? You can be afraid it's going to happen or maybe it's sort of all linked, right? It's all, you can't like tease it apart, but I do believe strongly there is the camp of people who know that we could all drop dead at any second. And then those who can blissfully go through life kind of thinking about it, but it's not part of their everyday.
Exactly.
And you just want to like pull the shades up and let them see out the window that you're looking out of or something.
Totally. So, because you just feel alone. I mean, that's what it is for me. It's the feeling alone in it. It's if I'm like walking around and like everyone's happy, I'm just like, wait, you guys are all aware, right? That that we're gonna die. Or you guys are all aware of that, right? And like, it's like people don't like again, like my husband says to me, he's like, we don't want to like he was afraid of flying, then got over it. It took him a long time. Then he met me and I was like, wait, you're not afraid of flying? That's crazy. And he was like, so then I kind of brought him right back to where he was. And he was
well
like,
done, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you. He was like, what is your deal? Like, why do you want, like, we don't want to, like, you know, the world doesn't want to be afraid of flying. The world doesn't want to be. And I'm like, right, but there's people for whom it is impossible not to be afraid. And it is for those people that I am writing, right? And like, you know, I always talk about that Cesar Cruz quote that art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. And, you know, I don't really want to disturb the comfortable. I'm like, you guys are fine. If you're fine, good. I'm happy for you. But for these guys over here who are not fine, like, I am here to tell you, I am also not fine. And, you know, here are some of the things I do to feel more fine. So kind of that's sort of my, like, where I write from.
Well, I think feeling not fine and feeling alone is so much worse than just feeling not fine. Mm-hmm. Like knowing you're like dropping into a crowded pool of people who also feel that way.
Yeah,
better than like alone in the big vast ocean of it yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're in the community pool today is where we are.
Yeah,
community
exactly.
Pool of grief.
Exactly.
Okay, and now pulling out of deep philosophical discussions. Okay, so Ghost Lover is done and out and beautiful and thought-provoking, of course, and just awesome. Where are you with the rest of your writing? Like, what are you working on now? What's happening with what's happening with the film stuff? Like, what are you doing? You have like a million balls in the air.
I do. And I'm lucky and also totally exhausted. So 3 Women will be out sometime in the new year, I think. We don't have an air date yet, but it's all done. We're just sort of cutting it's not done. We're still in the sort of like, you know, cutting all the episodes part, but all the principal photography is done being filmed. There's a first look on Vanity Fair they did a beautiful job on it. It looks really cool. Writing the screen adaptation of Animal for film, and a lot of the stories in Ghost Lover are kind of going into TV land.
Wow. So cool. So when you wake up and you're like when you like wake up and go to your desk in the morning, like how are you organizing your time for the day?
I mean, it involves a lot of like colored pens and things. I have a lot, like today, like after this, I have like a lot of edit sessions, like back to back on the thing. So I mostly do meetings, and then I try to schedule days where it's just for writing, but it's increasingly hard to do that. So I try to like carve out time in the day.
Amazing. Well, I know we spent a lot of time in the beginning just chit-chatting, and so now our episode is shorter. But I'm encouraging listeners to go back and listen to our other episodes too, and check out Ghost Lover, because the sentences you will like underline, highlight, want to post on your fridge or whatever. And thank you so
much, Zibby, and good luck on Bookends. I can't wait to read it, and I'm really excited.
Thank you. All right. Bye. Good luck, Lisa. Okay. Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Zibby Owens and at Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Also sign up for my newsletter at zibbyowens.com and sign up for my virtual book club and meet lots of authors on Zoom every other week. Thanks so much to Steve and Ryan at Texture Sound for the sound editing. And thank you to Morning Moon Productions for providing this fantastic intro and outro music.